So we're back in the studio after a week-long hiatus. We were in the Hurricane Beryl, and we lost power for 7 days. For one day, we lost water.
Yeah, and we were on the verge of going to a hotel, but then...
They didn't have any washing machines.
Yeah, and when you have a 5 and 7-year-old, and you kind of need a washer and dryer after 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, and so with that, we didn't have any internet, and so we weren't able to upload at all last week. So we're making up for it this week because our power came back on yesterday, being Sunday, and today is Monday. So we're back in the studio, and we missed talking to all of you, but we're okay, and we're probably a little lighter because we kind of sweated some pounds off. I'm going to say because no air conditioning, everything. So please have a special place in your heart or a special place in your prayers for those in Houston who still don't have power.
Yes, and businesses that have lost at least a week's worth of business.
Right.
I mean, that's a big deal.
So, let's talk about the hurricane. So the hurricane hit Houston as a Category 1, and we're not strangers to hurricanes. We get hit by hurricanes all the time. The last big one was Harvey, and it caused massive amounts of flooding, but we kind of get hit by hurricanes a lot of the time.
I don't think we lost power at all with that
We did not. We didn't lose power at all. And this hit, and that was a hurricane, it was a Category 4, I believe. And this was a Category 1. So what's up with that? And it's a smaller storm, but it caused so much damage. And the general consensus is the angle that the hurricane hit us. So most of the hurricanes that hit Houston come through the Gulf of Mexico, and they do a hard charge straight into Houston. It
went through Mexico.
It went through the Yucatan Peninsula across Mexico, and then went directly north. And so just from the virtue of the angle, it's an unusual direction from the wind to come through, and that's one of the reasons why it had so much damage. Now, another problem that we have is the derecho, right, that happened.
Yeah, the strong wind, which is what that means, from 2 months ago.
Yeah. Well, just a few weeks ago. And so it knocked out the power, and then we had a big giant tropical storm that hit, knocked out power again, and then we have this hurricane. And so what I've seen from the executive branch in Texas, the lieutenant governor that's in charge of Texas right now, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, he is saying that CenterPoint, which is our electricity provider, has not had an opportunity to fortify the repairs that they keep having to do. So they're putting these temp fixes on stuff, and they're not as durable, and so they're susceptible to going down again.
Well, I mean, that would kind of make sense because we've barely been able to catch our breath individually. But, there is some criticism that can go towards CenterPoint. I mean, maybe half as many linemen have come out from other states as with derecho. And I saw this Facebook post saying, when derecho hit, we saw bus after bus after bus deliver crews for CNP from all over the country within 1 day. This time, on day 3, and just now, crews are arriving via bus, albeit only 2 buses. And this was from a Facebook poster in the community group. It was taking pictures of it from a hotel.
Yeah, and we're sliding pictures that Kimberly took across the screen during this whole time. So we're not going to point out any individual picture, but you can see kind of the flooding and the devastation that happened. A lot of the issues were trees and branches knocking down power lines.
It seemed like a lot more trees came up out of their roots and fell. And I was listening to Ted Cruz, and he was thinking that just the soil was just so
oversaturated.
Weak. Yeah, but that's not the first time that's happened, and this is just insane.
Right, and in looking at these trees falling down, the actual governor of Texas has said that CenterPoint has been not spending enough money in order, I guess, to save money and increase profitability, to do their obligations of trimming back trees. And so there has been, Governor Abbott said, hey, look, you guys are supposed to be going through and any branch that's close to a power line, you're supposed to make it be 3 feet away from the power line. And they just haven't been doing that.
Yeah, you don't have to drive far in Houston to realize that's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, even at our house, in our cluster of 9 houses, there's vines growing all over the, that are weighing down on the power lines. And you actually jumped up there and trimmed the tree for our neighbor.
A few feet because it was about to drag on the ground from a line. But, we need to look at the members, the leadership of Centerpoint. So just 2 months ago, Christopher Foster has been CEO, again, just 2 months, used to work for PG&E for 11 years as a CFO and is replacing Jason Wells, who also used to work at PG&E since 2020 and negotiated exit from bankruptcy. PG&E went bankrupt due to lawsuits for 84 felony counts on involuntary manslaughter due to 2017 and 2018 wildfires in Northern California. In 2012, California Public Utilities Commission made regulations to reduce fire hazards from power lines.
Go figure.
However, somehow the regulations did not apply to Northern California,
where the wildfires were.
Yeah, so it just reminds. So they're both the former executive came from PG&E. This one's also coming from PG&E, and it just kind of makes me feel like the Catholic Church when they move a bishop that was inappropriate with a choir boy or something, and they just move him to another parish.
Right.
Kind of makes me feel like that.
Yeah, you figure you're hiring somebody for lessons learned to come over and take over your organization, and why would you hire somebody that had poor lessons learned
the last time?
And
their prior service is pretty well on public display.
Yeah, I mean, there's a photograph of him sitting at Centerpoint headquarters, and he's been telling people, hey, you need to raise your electricity to 76, or your temperature to 76 degrees. And the interesting that was pointed out is he's sitting on a couch, and the thermostat behind him is set to 70 degrees in the photograph. Well, I'll find that photograph and put it up.
How about these people stop raising their salaries to $725,000 a year?
Yeah, it's crazy what this guy's being paid.
After quarterly losses.
Well, so we have some lessons learned for you. We, after the derecho, we were out without power for, was it 4 days? 4 days. Yeah. And so, it was fairly miserable. And so I decided to go out and get a generator at that time. And it's just one of those things, divine intervention. So I have assembled the generator. I've got the wheels on. I've got the oil in it. And I'm about to pour the gasoline in it. And the lights come back on. So I was like, oh, now I don't have to drain the generator. So we had it. We had it. And so when the power went out, because the power went out during the hurricane. So it wasn't afterwards. It was during the hurricane the power went out. And actually, I put a short out. I'll put a link to it here. I put a short out where our patio furniture on our 4th floor deck is just spinning around, and it was about
the umbrella is spinning around by a cord.
Yeah, and I was like, this thing is going to impale some. And it hits the glass, but it doesn't break the glass, and that's what I put that short. That was the last thing that we did, because as soon as that uploaded, everything went down. Internet, the cellular internet. We have a T-Mobile hotspot and stuff like that. So anyway, when the rain stopped, we were able to get that generator out, and I plug everything in, and we've got kind of pre-planned to have fans in the 2nd floor, as well as the refrigerator plugged in. So we wouldn't lose food, because we lost, I don't know, $200-300 worth of food
last time. And this time we were like, nope, we're not fully stuck in the fridge.
Exactly. So we had that going on, and then the only rooms that open up are on the 3rd floor, and so I had 2 portable AC units that are inside the room and has a hose a big hose that goes out the window, and you close the window on top of it to have that. So we had 2 rooms that were air conditioned. My mother, who's in her upper 70s, she lost all power as well.
She still does not have power.
She still does not have power. So I went and grabbed her and brought her to our house. So we had an inflatable mattress. So Kimberly and I and our son were in the master bedroom. Our daughter has bunk beds, and so Grandma and my daughter were cool in that. But everywhere else in the house, it was brutal.
We got literally nothing done. I mean, because I would go downstairs for 5 minutes and I have to come back upstairs and get one of the rooms. I'm like, it's like 90 degrees downstairs.
Yeah, so an entire house, only 2 rooms were able to be occupied at any given time. And so, it was, but we were fortunate. We were fortunate. And so here's a lesson learned on the generator. So the generator, I kind of had it behind our house. And the houses in the area that we live, they don't go out.
Everything's up.
Everything is up. So we live in a 4-story house, and the distance between the 4-story houses is like 5 feet.
I might be taller than they are wide.
Yeah. So it's a house, 5 feet, house, 5 feet, behind you, 5 feet, whatever. And so I had the generator kind of back because the derecho, there was reports of generators being stolen by people. So I kind of had it out of sight and behind the corner of the house. And it releases exhaust. And you're like, yeah, of course it releases exhaust. All right. Well, the area, because the houses were such that it was doing a buildup of exhaust, and we have a Generac 6500 model generator, and it has a carbon monoxide sensor. And so when carbon monoxide levels get to a certain point, it turns off. And the reason that it was turning off is it was in this alleyway of 5 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet, surrounded by houses, but there was no breeze. There was no breeze that was going on. So it was just stagnant. So it was filling up that area, which would be the first floor. And we didn't have anybody on the first floor. But it was just kind of sitting there, so it kept going off. So I pulled it around the corner, and I plugged in a external fan, just a regular box fan, and put it behind the generator so air was continuously being flushed over, and I was venting the exhaust. So that's a lesson learned if you're in an area where it's kind of tight. You definitely don't want to do it in your house. You definitely don't want to do it in your garage.
No.
You have to have it outside of the house because there were people that died of carbon monoxide
or
poisoning.
if it is in the garage door has to be all the way up and probably a fan shooting that exhaust out.
Well, you would assume some risk. The directions on the generator say even don't do that.
Okay.
And so it needs to be away from the house. But you could assume some risk. But there were people that died in Houston and from
door shut.
Yeah, the doors being shut. So we learned about that. Also, the rain. It rained multiple times during the 7 days that we were without power. You can't operate the generator in the rain. Produces electricity and water, bad. And so I now realize that what I need to do is have some type of cover, like something.
Maybe one of those beach tent things
like
where
a beach
it's open
tent
around the sides.
Yeah, so open on all the sides, but has a cover over it because to be able to keep that generator on. So whenever it was raining, I'd unplug everything and take the generator.
The house would get really hot.
And so that's a lesson learned there as well. Now gasoline, we got a gasoline powered. I really wanted a dual fuel or a tri-fuel. So just a gasoline just runs on gasoline. A dual fuel can run on propane, like propane tanks you see at gas stations and things like that. And the nice thing about propane is it never goes bad. Gasoline, if you have it in a gas can, eventually it goes bad.
Right. About how long?
So I wouldn't throw anything more than 3 weeks into a vehicle because it just starts to separate out unless you put like a fuel stabilizer in there, a dedicated, and you can buy that and stick it in there. But I wanted the dual fuel because propane doesn't go bad and you can run it on that. Tri-fuel means you can hook it up to your natural gas line and you can run it that way. And I think what we're going to do is upgrade ourselves eventually to
save up for one
save up for one that runs off natural gas, and then you're not having to run and try and find gasoline, which is what a problem is that cars were 40 cars deep on every single gas station, and a lot of gas stations didn't have power, so they couldn't provide fuel.
So the reason why you're seeing those lines like, oh, why didn't they get gas a long time ago? Well, because it doesn't keep that long. But when I hear the Biden administration like, oh, we want to limit or cut off natural gas, blah blah, I'm like, then we would be stuck in a hurricane without being able to eat at all because our oven is gas, and we would not be able to shower because our hot water heater is gas. And when we get the tri-fuel generator, well, guess what? We won't have AC at all. So insert expletives.
Right. Now, the summer school that our children go to was closed as well.
Yeah, so they were home
all 7 days.
All day. Let's just say they got way more iPad time than mommy would care for. Unfortunately, our 5-year-old is just not that entertained. She wants you playing with her, which is code for, I want you to sit there, let me boss you around, and for you to pretend to like it.
Right.
But I was really disappointed. I'm not going to name the school because we might need summer school for them next summer.
Right.
But they had the audacity to lie to me. When tuition is really high and you probably already know it, don't lie to the parents, because there's a restaurant right next door to the school, and even this restaurant's nighttime parking, their overflow parking, goes into the school's parking lot.
Okay.
And so twice I drove by, like Tuesday, Wednesday, I drove by that area, and I would see the restaurant's lights on. And to boot, Facebook community groups said that the restaurant was open. And so finally, like the 4th or 5th time, they said the school said they were going to be closed
because of lack of electricity.
Then why is this restaurant next door to you open? And then they denied that this restaurant is open. I'm like, oh, now you're making me really mad by lying to me. And I'm on day 5 with no power. So anyway,
but
please don't lie to the parents.
Yeah, information is critical. Keeping truthful information going and information flow. I know you were on that community Facebook group.
Yep.
So all the moms were putting out tips and things like that. So definitely having a good community surrounding you is super important, I think, for information flow. But yeah, one of the strongest things is family. I mean, we were able to play some board games, and I would have those on hand. Don't have just digital stuff. You want to have analog stuff. Battleship, not sponsored by any of these games. Uno, Candyland, and depending upon the age of your children.
Yeah, ours are 5 and 7. So we're to engage both of them. We're limited to about 2 games.
Right. Yep. So anyway, make sure you do that. Make sure you're looking out for family members that are vulnerable. Again, we immediately went and got my mother out of her hot situation and got her, into one of the 2 rooms of our house that we could cool. We're just very fortunate that we were able to kind of stockpile that stuff up. So I'm doing a lot of lessons learned on cords and which how many feet of electrical outlets and what type of gauge and stuff like that. So I'm continuously learning as well because I want to be prepared.
Well, also, I think this also is another example in life why there's a difference between men and women, because I picked up one of those cords. I'm like, this is really heavy. And I mean, our house looked like a refugee crisis center where there's cords everywhere. And then you have to do one thing. You have to, direct the power from this to over here and over here and over here. You can't have everything just on at the same time. And I couldn't do that, carrying these heavy cords, and then the 5-gallon, gas cans, going and doing that twice a day. Those things are heavy, and I have a terrible back. And then, God knows I can't push that generator anywhere. It's too heavy. And so it's just a difference between men and women. I'm better at yelling at the kids and getting them to do stuff, and you're better at doing all the heavy lifting.
Okay. Well, that's why we're a good team.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. We're okay. Keep your thoughts and prayers for people that still don't have electricity, but please stay tuned.
Pray for accountability for the leadership at center point.
I agree. I completely agree. So thank you for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you know President Trump was almost assassinated Saturday. The Secret Service is wholly to blame, and a clown show ensued to get the president to safety. Many experts have commented on how easy a shot this was, and a former sniper on Jesse Waters last night said that he could train somebody to do it in 10 minutes. But was it that easy? 164 yards is reported by the FBI. We're going to analyze this on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is Kimberly McNabb. So if you do want to skip ahead and just go to the actual shot analysis, I'll put a timestamp for you to skip here. But first, we're going to take a look at President's reaction to being shot and the follow-on actions of the Secret Service. And I know this has been played a lot, but we need to make sure that we have this for context.
It's amazing no one's moving.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this, but this is clear that this was not rehearsed ahead of
we are watching
this
live
event.
at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where former President Trump was speaking on the stage.
You have multiple female agents asking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? You have a special agent that says, move, and then nobody moves. So this is an eternity. If there had been a second shooter, this would have been a huge problem.
Voices there saying, "Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go?" We are looking at President Trump. This does not look good. I'm going to be honest with you. From what we can see,
you can see that there's a height difference in some of the Secret Service agents.
To move him out, that he may have been injured.
Not able to provide a lot of protection.
He is holding up his arm. He is pumping his fist, but
this is where Trump solidifies himself as literally the man
of this situation.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we'll go ahead and analyze this. But again, if you want to skip just to the shot analysis on whether it was an easy shot or not, then we can go ahead and skip to that timestamp that I put it. I'll put the link up there again so you can get to it. But honestly, this was piss poor. This shows a lack of rehearsals.
Yeah, that is eternity, because if you're a good shot or halfway decent shot and you got a shot, you could get at least 10 more shots off there.
Right. And if there was a second shooter.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously Trump was on the stage for a really long time. Again, if you hear so what was good? What was good is
they did put their bodies up.
They dogpiled on him and created that human barricade.
But that's the basic, everybody knows that's a part of their job.
Right. But the fact that he was taking such a long time, the fact that the female agent specifically said, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" That it should be a muscle memory.
During a football play in the middle of the field, are they asking that? No.
I mean,
You've rehearsed that play.
In the Army, we have things that are called battle drills, and battle drills are pre-planned and pre-trained actions to take, react to contact, react to indirect fire, artillery rounds, enter and clear a room, enter and clear a trench, react to near ambush, react to far ambush. These things are battle drills, and they are trained so that when these things occur, when a platoon or a squad encounters any of those battle drill situations, it's automatic. Like, nobody has to say, "Hey, what's the plan?"
It's muscle memory.
It's literally, it is muscle memory, and you are trained and trained and trained and trained and trained. You don't have to talk about it when the infantry are doing these battle drills, and this is clearly whether they were complacent, but they should be at a minimum once a week dogpiling Donald Trump. I mean, and practicing.
Well, also that's another reason why, short, petite, or, just short females don't make for very good Secret Service members, because are you going to be able to tackle 6'4", argue whatever you want about Donald Trump's weight? Okay, right. I mean, I think at a certain age you should get a little bit of a pass, but
right.
he's
still
not
6'4".
a small dude.
Right.
And this woman is barely able to cover his heart, much less any part of his head. I mean, the basics of your job is to put your body between him and a bullet.
Right. Yeah,
so,
I mean,
and unfortunately, no one was there to put their body between the bullet and the volunteer firefighter that lost his life.
Right. And our thoughts and prayers go out to that person, because he jumped on top of his family and took the bullet to save his family. So he is truly a hero to his family, and I'm sure his wife and daughters are going to, be thankful for the rest of their lives for having such a great father. But this clearly shows, I mean, they did not have a plan specifically rehearsed as a battle drill to get Donald Trump from the stage to what turned out to be the spare armored limousine, and then to get Donald Trump out of there. So, I mean, I think the Secret Service director is a female, and she specifically has asked for a diversity hire of making 30% of Secret Service agents females. And again, here we get into this DEI of making sure that everything is equitable. There's certain jobs that are just not equitable, and there should be a physicality standard of what can be a Secret Service. You need to be 6 foot. You need to be, if you're a 6 foot female, cool. You meet the requirement.
They exist. I mean, I've seen some of them in my pure bar class. I'm like, huh?
Right. I mean, it shouldn't be the gender or the race. It should be the physiological makeup of the human being that would be able to do the job. And in this instance, we see two very short females. And again, I'm not ragging on the female. I'm saying that they are short. They could be, if they were short men, I would be saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, if they were Danny DeVito, like, again, can't do the job. Might make you laugh while you're getting shot at, but
right.
It's not a qualifier.
So again, this is not a hit on women. It is a hit on the hiring of someone who is of small stature, who's not physically strong like a man is, not as physically tall like a man is, and on top of that, we have confusion. I mean, if we go further on, this has been played ad nauseum, but if we went further, even as they get them to the armored limousine, there's a Secret Service agent female that draws her weapon way late.
She takes it out like this. I mean, first of all, I think he's in the car by this point.
He's already in the car.
So what are you taking it out for? And then she's trying to put it back in, finally gets it back in, and then has to put it back in over here.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't rehearsed on how to draw and holster her firearm as this. None of this should be a surprise. These guys and gals are professionals. This should not be a surprise. They should not be nervous. They should be in execution mode, and would have been so had they done rehearsal after rehearsal after rehearsal. I mean, training does not stop after you graduate. Whatever federal, I think they go to FLETC. But federal training does not stop after graduation. You have to keep rehearsing, and I think this is going to be a lesson learned on what not to do in the future.
Well, I also wonder where they're getting their candidates, because a lot of these people have prior military service records. They have prior service as, New York City cops, like right. Dan Bongino. He was a New York City cop, and then he went on to work 12 years as a Secret Service agent. And yeah, and so I'm just like, where are these people from? What prior service do they have? Because they shouldn't be nervous. They should know how to handle a gun just based on that, but well before they get there.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And so we're not going to beat that horse to death. But, in looking at the President Trump getting shot himself, it is amazing. It is a miracle that he did not have a bullet pierce the center mass of his skull and into his brain. He literally turned, while the bullet was in the air, a fraction of a little bit towards his right, and that changed the sight picture completely. And instead of piercing his skull, it hit him in the ear. And we're talking an inch. An inch.
People have been saying millimeters.
Millimeters. Okay, fine. I'll take that. So everybody's been saying, even the day it happened on CNN, reporter contacted the Pentagon and was citing military sources that say that this was an easy shot, and they're very surprised that Donald Trump wasn't killed, and a sniper trained individual was on Jesse Waters last night and was talking about how easy a shot this was, and that he could train anybody to do it within 10 minutes. So it turns out it's 164 yards, according to the FBI investigation. And I'm going to be putting some photographs up. And we're a small mom and pop podcast, and so we don't have a production team. It's just the two of us. So I am borrowing and utilizing images that I did not create, but full credit goes to CNN and USA Today, which is where I got these images from, and I'll be referring to. So when you look at this first image, it has and I'm referring to it on my iPad as well, but you have the Trump rally stage area. You can see the general breakdown of how the campground or the rally site was arrayed. And then on the top, you can see the actual diagrams of where the stage was and where the bleachers were and things like that. And then there's two special call-outs of law enforcement snipers, counter snipers on a roof, and then the gunman's location as well. And
these snipers train for 1,000 yards, so way further than the 164. I mean, less than 20% of what they're actually trained for.
Right. So one of the things that I am going to go and take a different tact and say that this is not an easy shot, and so for this individual, this 20-year-old man who has zero military experience, zero law enforcement experience. Don't know if he's played a lot of video games in his life, but
got a gun just 6 months prior.
Right, exactly. So he's had an AR-15 for 6 months, and we'll put a picture of him up here. And this guy is no hero. He's definitely no hero. But what makes me qualified to talk about this sniper shot and counter snipers and things like that. As you know, I'm a retired Army officer, and I am a graduate of the Sniper Employment Leaders Course, or SELC course, at the U.S. Army Sniper School in Fort Benning, Georgia, now called Fort Moore, Georgia. So again, I'm a graduate of the SELC course at Sniper School. So I know how to employ snipers and utilize them in great detail in mission planning in support of infantry operations. So I know what I'm talking about here. So, but let's talk about just the way that the AR-15 / M4, effectively, everybody likes to say it's the military version. An M4 has a 14-inch barrel, and AR-15 has a 16-inch barrel, unless you are an SOT or you have a short-barreled rifle that you've filed with the federal government. But on the buy things that you're buying from the store are going to have a 16-inch barrel, so you have a 2-inch barrel difference, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal. The thing is, the AR-15 can actually shoot further than the M4 because of that extra 2 inches of barrel. You can accelerate the bullet. Doesn't seem like much, but it is a lot when you're talking about a small projectile like a 5.56 or a 2.23 round. So, but let's just say mechanically they're all the same. On the by, if this guy is trying to zero his brand new rifle, that he has, and that's what an AR-15 is. It is a rifle, okay? So it comes stock with iron sights, and the iron sights are the front post sight, which is your elevation, and your rear sight aperture, which controls your windage, okay? So up and down, left and right, all right? So you have to use a military zero page that you can just download off the internet and type in, how to zero my M4 or zero my AR-15, or an M16, which has a 16-inch barrel as well. So you would use that, but you can just download that off the internet and get that. And typically, the U.S. Army zeroes their rifles out to 300 meters, 300 yards. They're not exactly the same, but for the purpose of this video, we'll make them interchangeable.
and we're Americans, so
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, in the military, we use meters, and so, but we'll just make this interchangeable, and it's not the same.
Well, the news keeps mixing it up too.
News keeps mixing it up as well. So it's not the same, but I'm going to temporarily use them as interchangeable. So 300 meters, 300 yards, 3 football fields away. Now, the maximum distance that these rounds are lethal to, you can go all the way up to 600 meters, so double that. But you're looking at point targets versus area targets and things like that. So, but on the by and by, you buy your shiny new or blacked out AR-15, and it's got iron sights on it. So you need to zero those out on the. Typically, you're zeroing them out to 300 yards or 300 meters. Now, the interesting thing is this. Kid, I call him a kid. He's a grown man, but he's 20. Was a member of a gun club and had a range that he went to, and the maximum range was 200 meters out there. So here he is. There's not really as many 200 meter targets to zero on. So we're going to go ahead and say that he's zeroing on the 300 meter target, which is a piece of paper that you put 25 yards away from you, 25 meters away from you. So you're not putting it out at 300, you're putting it at 25, and it simulates, by the size of the silhouette that you're zeroing your weapon on, a man-sized target at 300 meters. And so, but you're really doing it at 25 meters. And so you are trying to put 3 out of 5 shots in a 1-inch circle at 25 yards, simulated at 300 meters. And if you are outside the circle, you adjust your windage up, down, your elevation up, down, your windage left, right, until you can get those 3 shots inside the 1-inch circle on consistently. And then you're circled. So then let's talk about optics. So then you slap on an optic. So you have your iron sights, which are built into the rifle, already zeroed. Now you need, if you're having an optic like an ACOG or an M68 reflex sight, you have to zero that as well. And so, again, we're talking basic bare bones. We're not talking, special forces where iron sights and red dot sights are zeroed at different, so they can do close quarters battle and stuff like that really easily. But we're talking about just what a standard civilian would probably do, especially being 20 years old with 0 military experience, 0 law enforcement experience. And so that person's going to zero their optic as well. Now, we don't know, because they haven't shown a picture of the rifle as of this recording, so I don't know if he had an optic. I don't know if it was a 3x or a 5x magnification scope, or if it was just a reflex sight like an EOTech, which doesn't have any magnification on it. So we don't know. We don't know. But the thing is as you are firing a rifle, an AR-15, M4, M16, they're all kind of interchangeable. The bullets do not go out like a laser beam. They don't go out like a laser beam. They don't go straight. You don't fire it and it just goes straight forever until it hits its target. All right? There's this pesky little thing called gravity that puts a dampener on how far a bullet can actually go. So in order to hit that 300-meter target, and people will argue about this, but it's just true, the bullet flies in an arc. It doesn't go up in the air like an artillery round and then back down, but it flies in a small arc, and it comes in and hits the target at 300 meters. Just That's just the way it is. So you're firing at a little bit of an angle. It's imperceptible to you, but that's what the elevation does. You're firing at a little bit of an angle, and then it falls onto the target at 300 meters. Now, there are 2 targets on a basic rifle marksmanship range that are commonly missed. 2 targets, and they go from 50 meters all the way out to 100 to 300 meters. So they have 50 meters, 100 meters, 150 meters, 200 and 250, and then 300 meters. The 2 most commonly missed targets is the 50 meter, which
to someone who knows nothing about guns, they're like, that's
closest,
not that far.
That's the closest one. It's half a football field. That's the closest target. But it is hugely a common one that's missed. And the reason that it is missed is because people who are inexperienced will close their non-dominant eye, and they will aim down the iron sights with that eye closed in order to engage targets. Instead of what you're supposed to do is keep both eyes open at all times and firing, so you have situational awareness. But every single time it'll be an inexperienced shooter. They'll be in the foxhole, or they'll be in prone unsupported or something like that, and you'll see the 50-meter target come up and then go back down. And when there's no shot at that 50-meter, which is the easiest one to hit, when there's no shot, that guy has his eye closed. Because, if you have that eye closed, that 50-meter target will come up, and then it'll go back down, and you don't engage it, you've got your eye closed. So that's a common one that you see people miss. The other common one is the 150-meter target.
And it was 164 yards,
164.
So the closest to the distance.
Yep. Yeah. So what at one? Because remember, we're talking. There's that little arc that happens. The halfway point. So the highest point of that arc is at 150 meters. The halfway point, right? And so what will happen is everybody is trained to shoot center mass. You shoot center mass because it's the biggest part of the target, biggest part of the human body. Again, we're not talking about Delta Force, that can, shoot headshots all day long and stuff like that. But on the by and by, train to shoot center mass of your target. And so if you shoot center mass, the odds are the bullet will overfly the 150-meter target. It'll overfly it because it's the apex of that arc when you've zeroed out to 300 meters. So what an experienced shooter will do is for the 150-meter target, they will shoot at the base of the target. They'll aim aim at the base of the target so that when the bullet is going and it's in that arc, it will hit center mass, right? So I'd have to say that the shooter was probably aiming center mass and got lucky that the bullets were going towards Donald Trump's head, right? So he probably just didn't know that. Now let's talk about stress shoot. So Navy SEALs, as part of their training, will go and lift heavy weights and do pull-ups and things like that in order to get that vibration in their arms, and then they'll go out and do close quarters battle, CQB. And it's to simulate the fact that if they're boarding a ship from the surface, they're climbing up a ladder up into a cargo ship or something like that. It's like 4 stories tall. So they're going from the water all the way up to the deck of the ship, and then they have to go fight and do accurate shots. And so they're trained to do that. But this kid, you can see that he is no G.I. Joe.
No, he probably weighs what I do.
Yeah,
maybe.
Just no G.I. Joe. Again, we'll put that photograph up of him again. But still, here he is. He's climbing up the ladder to get to this building. And he's doing a military style low crawl or high crawl in order to get to his position. Okay, so here he is. He's exerting himself. And in the infantry, we do especially post 9/11 and lessons learned, the infantry practices a lot of stress shoots. So they do push-ups and jumping jacks and things like that in order to get the heart rate up, and then go and shoot to stress your body and have an accurate representation of what combat would be like, rather than the old school basic rifle marksmanship where you shoot 10 rounds from a supported position, 10 rounds prone, unsupported, and 20 rounds from a foxhole for a total of 40 rounds. That has gone pretty much away. Now, maybe they still do that in basic training. I don't know. But still, anyway, the fact that he physically exerted himself, so his body is tired, his heart is going. And then let's talk about the excitement factor. Mm-hmm. Right? The excitement factor. So if you're a hunter out there, there is a phenomenon that for me, people call it in Texas deer fever. And it's you've got your buck that you're going to take a shot at, and it's a perfect shot, and you're just so excited that you're just kind of vibrating. And it'll be an easy layup shot, and you'll miss. And the deer will run off, and it's just this deer. You're just personally so excited. Now imagine this kid, who's probably, more than likely, never killed another human being before, right? He's never killed another human being before. So not only is he shooting at a human being that he's not trained to shoot at, he's also shooting at the former president of the United States.
Yeah.
There's got to be an excitement
factor. And he
factor.
thinks this is his life's greatest cause, because if you are listening to so much rhetoric out there, so many hateful things out there, you're thinking you're doing something great for humanity. You are just so brainwashed, and so you're like, I'm going to save humanity from Hitler, right. Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, that's an additional excitement factor. And he's probably never been laid before.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the kid.
Look at the kid. He's probably never, you're right. He's never been laid before. So this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to him ever in his life. And so anyway, so that deer fever setting in, that excitement of killing the president of the United States, former president of the United States, has to weigh on him. Now, let's also talk, it's from an elevated position, okay? That makes it even more difficult, because now it's not straight line. Now it's I'm elevated and shooting down. And that is a whole other calculus. Again, for a sniper, and again, the former sniper that was on Jesse Waters, I can, of course you can.
Yeah, you've been trained,
of course,
like 25 years experience or something
exactly.
like that.
Of course you can make that shot. But this kid did not have a mentor. He's doing it, on his own. And so again, the calculus has changed when you are shooting at different elevations. Just so again, this makes the shot more difficult. Now, the final thing that makes the shot difficult is the fact that a police officer surprised him on the roof. Now, the initial report was that the police officer climbed a ladder and saw the gunman. The gunman pointed his rifle at him, and then the cop retreated. And there was all these calls on social media, like coward cop, whatever. Anyway, the report has been clarified. What happened was there was no ladder, so a police officer got on top of another police officer on his shoulders, doing like a piggyback, and peeked up onto the roof. Yes, the rifle got pointed, and there was no other way to get down other than to fall off the other police officer's shoulders.
That's just very weird to me. Like, I don't understand why he went and climbed the ladder. You said it would take additional time. I'm like, to climb up someone's shoulders, that takes a minute too.
Well, supposedly he had to find the ladder. They didn't, where's the ladder on whatever side of the building that you're looking at. I mean, you can see I've left the graphic up for you to see the building. I mean, it's not a Home Depot shed, tool shed. I mean, it's a building. I mean, it's a structure. So anyway, not only do we have all of those factors laying in, he has changed his position. He's now excited because he's been discovered. So
I better do it now.
Right? So really, on top of that, he changed his position. He may have been aiming at Donald Trump, but he changed his position and rotated away from his target and onto the police officer, who fell backwards, and then rotated his rifle back to his target and then started firing. We call that a snapshot, right? Mm-hmm. So you're not really aiming. I mean, he went down and he's like, I'm been discovered, and now I'm firing. And all of those factors, for an untrained, and this it's such with such specificity that I'm saying this, as an untrained shooter and an inexperienced shooter, this is a very, very difficult shot for all the things that we mentioned.
He came very close and unfortunately killed the former volunteer firefighter.
Right.
Yes.
So this is literally, in my opinion, Satan was helping that boy, that young man, fire, and God stepped in and saved Donald Trump, because that 20-year-old needed so much help. Satan tried to put his finger on the scale, in my opinion. Right. It was a divine or anti-divine, evilness that helped out this kid get as close as he did, and it was God.
And put those thoughts in his mind.
And God turned Donald Trump's head a few millimeters.
Yeah, and delivered the greatest snapshot for a presidential campaign you can possibly imagine. And I took the liberty of making a meme,
and I loved it,
and referring to Donald Trump as the Rocky Balboa president.
Right. This is absolutely, and as we were talking about this, we've been out of the studio for a week now because of Hurricane Beryl.
Hurricane. We got power back just yesterday,
right.
And so trying to deal with the kids, trying to catch back up on life, and we were just starting to get back ahead after the derecho strong windstorm.
Right. That knocked out our power too.
From like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, this has just been, so we've been without power for 7 days, and this happens, and we're like, we have got to get it. But there's so much to talk about that we kind of had to narrow it down just to be able to have take an appetite suppressant on how long this video is going to be. But again, there were so many people that are saying this is an easy shot. I wanted to take the opposite and to show that this was not an easy shot to do. Now, the Secret Service is a complete failure on this part.
And we have a video where the women are just looking around, so many unnecessary movements like this. I mean, I've seen videos where the one brunette woman, she looks drunk.
Right.
And she's taking her gun out, putting it up here, back here, and then finally pointing it around. And I'm like...
Well, she's panicking is what it is.
Yeah, and I'm like, when did Melissa McCarthy become a Secret Service member?
Oh, right. No kidding. No kidding. But we, have looked at this and how this internet account called Cat Turd.
Yeah, she asked, I think it's her, asked, question, how does a 20-year-old dork outsmart the Secret Service?
Yeah, so here's how that happens. It happens because the person is an idiot savant, and there's just a weird amount of luck. And so not only did this kid just be an idiot savant and be able to bypass and outsmart the Secret Service, this just reminded me of a story that happened while I was stationed in Korea. And it was, I'm going to change the name. I'm going to use the first letter, Private Z. We're going to call him Private Z. So this is pre-9/11. So 9/11 had not happened yet, and this is at Camp Casey, South Korea, 12 miles away from the demilitarized zone. And we were out on a nighttime training exercise. It was the company. So the company has 3 maneuver platoons, and the 3 maneuver platoons were doing these lanes that were in the vicinity of the company headquarters. So you had the company headquarters, and you had forested areas that surround Camp Casey, and we were out in those forested areas, and there were various tactical tasks we were all practicing on. So I get a ready. We're about to hit our objective, and a radio call says, "Change of mission. Stand down. We need your platoon to get online, break white light out, and then find a pair of PVS-14 night vision goggles." And so we're like, oh, somebody dropped their nods. And so,
again, this is what, 1998, 1999?
This is in
2000.
2001.
Okay.
So it was the year that 9/11 did happen in September, but it was prior to 9/11 happening.
So this is pretty new technology.
Yeah. So the PVS-14 is I'll put a photograph of me wearing one in front of an Apache helicopter. This is me as a second lieutenant. Infantry air assault platoon leader, and you can see it's a monocle that covers only one eye. So the previous iteration of night vision was the PVS 7s and the PVS 7 Bravos, and they were binocular. So they had two tubes that you looked in your eye, but it went into one tube and it fed in. I'll put a picture of that as well. So you have two eyepieces, but only one night vision. So you get one view. The advantage of the PVS-14s is it went over one eye, usually your non-dominant eye, and you could see naturally with the other eye. Okay, so anyway, there's a Generation 3 night vision goggles. There were not a lot of them in the Army. And Special Forces had them. The 82nd Airborne had them. We had them in Korea as an air assault infantry battalion, one of two in the that were at the Korean Peninsula at the time. And so this was brand new. So you could not lose this. It was considered a sensitive item. So we're going out white light. Here's what happened, and in a different platoon, in a first, I was the platoon leader of 3rd platoon. In 1st platoon, a young second lieutenant, we're going to call him Lieutenant P, and he had was doing the same missions. Well, they had completed an attack on a simulated objective, and you go through the consolidation and report process of after action, and so you're counting your men, weapons, and equipment. And so the team leader, so a team is made up of 4 people. 2 teams are comprised of a squad. 4 squads equals a platoon. 3 platoons equals a company. 5 companies equals a battalion. You get the picture. So the team leader is counting his men, and so he's like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's looking for 4. Can't find him. Okay. 1, 2, 3. No, 4. Okay. Well, I'm missing a guy, and so who am I missing? Well, we're missing Private Z. And he goes, "Oh man, this guy got lost or whatever." And the interesting is he looks a lot like this guy. He looks a lot like this guy. And so he's like, "Well, let's not tell the squad leader. Let's go see if we can find him ourselves." So they go out looking for him, and they can't find him. And it takes like 15, 20 minutes that they're looking, and the squad leader's like, "Hey, Alpha Team, what are you doing?" So he comes back and he's like, "I can't find Private Z." And so the guy says, "Well, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where's number 9? There's no number 9. Oh, man. All right, let's keep this in-house and see if we can find him." So they go out, and the squad goes out and looks for him. And now about an hour has gone by. And then they tell the platoon sergeant and the platoon leader. I said, we're missing Private Z. And so they're like, okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 45. There should be 46. All right, yep, let's go keep this in-house.
Sounds like the Biden administration trying to hide how he is.
Yeah. So they're like, we're going to keep this in-house because we don't want to tell the company commander yet. So they go and spend another hour looking for him. And finally, then what they find is his rucksack, his Alice pack, and his weapon. So he just put him on the ground and disappeared.
Like, nope. Not today.
He's like, today's my last day in the Army, and just like put his weapon down and left. And so they found those. But what was not found was his night vision goggles, right? And so that's when we had got the call that the night vision, because they went and looked for him. So now the guy's been missing for about 2 hours before the company is alerted, and the company goes and lets everybody in the company know we need to get on turn on white light flashlights. This is at nighttime. White light flashlights, and we're searching, 3 lines deep, going through the woods, looking for these night vision goggles and Private Z, but really for the night vision goggles. And so the company wants to keep it in-house. So 3 hours go by, and finally the company commander tells the battalion commander. Battalion commander wakes it, because not every company was out training, and wakes everybody up, and we're all searching, and waits about an hour before he alerts the brigade commander. Now the brigade, so there's a brigade combat team on Camp Casey. Again, this is in 2001, so the order of battle has changed. Those units don't exist in Camp Casey anymore. In fact, I think South Korea now controls Camp Casey. But still, the entire post got locked down, and checkpoints have been set up. Now 5 hours have gone by. So checkpoints have been set up all over Camp Casey, road intersections. They've closed down the gates. It's a fenced base, but they closed down the 3 main gates to get in and out of the installation. And so we're going to find this guy. We're going to find this guy. So anyway, the checkpoints are manned by all kinds of units. It's not just the infantry that's there. There was an infantry battalion, 2 mechanized infantry battalions, an armor battalion, and then all of the support units and things like that. So we're trying to find them. CID, the Criminal Investigation Division, gets alerted. They come and they rip the guy's room apart, and they open up his mail. I don't know if that's legal or not, but they opened up his mail, and it turned out what had happened was the kid's girlfriend back at Fort Benning was probably a stripper or something like that. Anyway, he's been sending her money the whole year he's been in Korea, and she gets pregnant by some other guy, and he just snaps, and he's like, I have got to get back to my girlfriend so that I can fix this somehow. And so that's what had happened. They found that letter and realized. And so anyway, we're getting regular reports, that people are looking for Private Z, and a checkpoint manned by a quartermaster lieutenant and a couple of soldiers. Private Z walks up to this checkpoint in the middle of Camp Casey. And so I was an infantry officer, so a quartermaster officer is in charge of supply, right? So there's a supply officer. Private Z walks up to this checkpoint, and he is wearing his ballistic helmet, his Kevlar, and he's wearing his LBV, load-bearing vest, or LC, load-carrying equipment, depending upon what age you were in the Army, but it's a suspender system that holds your magazines. The Army doesn't use it anymore, but again, this is more than 20 years ago. So he has his LBE and his ballistic helmet on, and the quartermaster says, hey, you're not supposed to have your Kevlar helmet and your LBV on main post, so you can't go to main post. And Private Z says, okay. He takes his LBV off, clips it together. It's a belt system with suspenders. Clips it together to make the nice little circle, just like you're trained at basic training. And he puts the suspenders over it so it's nice and neat, and then places his Kevlar helmet on the pile of equipment, and then just goes through the checkpoint and leaves it there. And the quartermaster second lieutenant's like, nah, that's cool. And it's like, you said I couldn't wear this on main post, so here you go, leave it here and go through main post. And the quartermaster said, okay. And so he
not
gets
the look of a dishonorable discharge coming for
so anyway, I can't imagine this lieutenant's chain of command after action report, when it's come to commander. But anyway, so we're getting regular updates, and this quartermaster, gets a description and realizes that he let the guy through his checkpoint. And so he calls back, and the battalion commander is briefing the brigade commander, and I'm in there just fly on the wall, just kind of listening. And the battalion commander, I will never forget this. The battalion commander says, "Who the fuck is this guy? James Bond?" and everybody kind of yeah, everybody's kind of chuckling a little bit. I mean, it's still a serious thing, but who the fuck is this guy? He's doing escape and evasion at a professional level, bypassing and going through checkpoints, and people are waving him through and stuff like that. And so anyway, he winds up getting off post. He does. He gets off post, and he's down the Ville. And again, the biggest concern was for Private Z's safety.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
But also for the sensitive item of equipment, the night vision goggles. And we were worried that he was going to go into the black market area in Itaewon and sell them. And then they'd make their way up to North Korea or to China to be reverse engineered. That was really what the concern was.
Because they're kind of sort of known for that.
Yeah, and so we really didn't want that to happen. Those at the time, night vision was not common, and nobody in the world had as many night vision devices. I mean, every single soldier in the platoon, in the company, had PVS-14 night vision. That's kind of unheard of worldwide. I mean, most of the time in Russia at the time, I think only like the platoon leader had a pair of night vision Gen 1 devices, and nobody else had anything. So these are super expensive, especially at the time. They've been improved since. So anyway, the next day, the phone rings, and I'm in the company headquarters, and his platoon sergeant answers the phone, and so we'll call him Sergeant First Class D. And Sergeant First Class D is talking to Private Z and says, "Hey, so glad that you called, And it was like you're trying to get a wild dog to come over to you so you can kill it. So you're kind of like talking like nice and sweet and stuff like that.
I'm sure that's how Christy Noem did it too.
Yeah, exactly. And come here. And so he's like, first of all, are you okay? That's the most important thing. Are you okay? Nope. You're not in any trouble. Not in any trouble whatsoever. We just want to know if you're okay. Okay, you're okay. Hey, just on the by and by, you wouldn't happen to still have your night vision goggles on you, would you? And the answer is yes. And he's like, okay, well, where are you? Because we had gotten reports that there was a U.S. service member that was trying to sell his night vision goggles for blue jeans, a shirt, and a blowjob. And so, I mean, we're worried that this guy is doing this. And so anyway, he said, I'm at this hotel in downtown Itaewon. He says, okay, well, stay there. We're coming to get you. So the company commander talks to the battalion commander. The battalion had a single battalion sedan. It was a civilian car. I forget what the make and model was, but it was a civilian car, and not a Humvee or anything like that, but it was just a regular civilian sedan. And the battalion commander gives the company commander an order and says, you and you alone are to bring this soldier back to the battalion headquarters. Nobody else is to grab this guy. I want you to secure him and bring him back to the battalion headquarters. So the platoon leader, company commander, and the platoon sergeant and driver start heading out towards the main gate. Immediately the phone rings and CID says, we've been tapped the line. We heard all of that conversation. You were to stand down. You need to tell your company commander that he is not authorized to go grab this guy. And Sergeant First Class D said, I'm not going to tell my company commander anything. I'll let him know what you said, but he outranks me. I'm not going to tell him something. I'll inform him what you said. So anyway, they get out to if you're familiar with Camp Casey, there's a traffic circle with a fountain right outside the main gate, and the military police station is co-located right there. So they're driving in the sedan. CID agents are piling in their civilian sedan, and it's like one of those Wild West, the whistling right before the gunfight at noon that happens in the Old West. And so they both go tearing off, and they are doing a rendition of NASCAR through these city streets in Itaewon, South Korea, just doing the whole rubbing is racing. They're hitting each other. They're going down shortcuts and alleys and coming in, and it's like the car scene from Bullet, where it is just nonstop. So they get to the hotel, they screech to a halt, and everybody piles out of the car, and they're pushing and juking, and there to get into the hotel is a rotating circular door. So you can't really fit very many people through the rotation. So they're fighting.
It's like a glass cage match.
Yeah, it's like a glass cage match. So my company commander punches a CID agent right in the face, and the CID agents draw their sidearms, and they're just duking it out and have their sidearms. Anyway, people are making it through this rotating glass revolving door and spill into the lobby of the hotel. So Private Z is sitting there, calm, cool, and collected, looking like this guy, and he is thinking, the unit is coming to get him. Little does he know that it's World War III between CID, military police, and the infantry, and they're just duking it out in the lobby. Firearms are, waved around. Finally, the CID agents start arresting my company commander, the platoon leader, put him in handcuffs, and they grab Private Z and secure him. He did have his nods on him. And so that was good. So everybody went to jail, and they're at the MP station. So they got released back to their chain of command. Private Z wound up getting a dishonorable discharge, but it was an ordeal. So he had to hang around. His platoon didn't want him back. They hated him, and so he was at the company headquarters. I got a couple other stories about Private Z while we were waiting for him to outprocess the Army. But the company commander who punched a CID agent, everybody got released back to the chain of command. And as the company commander's punishment, the brigade commander made the captain give a block of instruction, an officer professional development, for an hour on why you should not punch a CID agent. And he had to do it all in PowerPoint, and all the company commanders of the brigade are there, and he's got a PowerPoint slide. Well, this is why you shouldn't punch CID agents and stuff like that. That was his punishment. So in any headquarters, company level and above, you have your chain of command. You got photographs of chain of command. You got the president, a photograph of the president up, and they're all framed. President, Secretary of the Defense, Secretary of the Army. You've got the 8th Army commander, you've got the division commander, you've got the brigade, battalion, and you have the company commander. So the company command is the first DA official photograph you get to hang up in a company or in a command. And so what we had done is, we got a transparency. People might not even know what transparencies are.
It's like a clear film.
It's like a clear film that you can use on a print. You had slides, and you can do that.
Projector, yeah.
So we drew black bars on this transparency and slid it over the company commander's official photograph, and so he was behind bars. And we loved the guy. It was just it was too good to pass up. And he'd come in the company like, God damn it, who's doing this? And he'd pull out that transparency, but we had like 50 more. And anytime he turned around, we'd slide another transparency in there that had the black bars on there, and that went on for until 9/11 happened actually, and then we stopped doing that. But still, when you say, how can an idiot outsmart the Secret Service, this is an example of how just dumb luck and being an idiot savant can have you be successful. And so this kid, not only did the situation of being able to outsmart the Secret Service come up, but this kid looks exactly like Private Z. And is the father going to be charged like Ethan Crumbly?
Yeah, because the dad did buy the gun
right.
for him, and so I don't know how he filled out the form. Like, you buying this for yourself, you're buying it for someone else.
Straw purchase.
If you knew that your son was having issues, are you liable at all? So, I am curious: are those questions going to be asked? But one of the many reactions to the attempted assassination was Biden's speech. What did you think of it?
So I thought it was a cookie cutter. I thought
Yes.
it was cookie cutter. It was canned. Hey, we need to tamp it down. Well, guess who's the person that's inflaming it? Trump is an existential threat.
No
to
one
democracy.
is referring to Biden as Hitler or fascist. You may think it, but you're not going to see any print about it. You're not going to see any TikTok videos saying that, and we're not going to be saying that either. So pretty hypocritical. Also, one thing I noticed that he said was former Trump. Like, he would never refer to Trump as President Trump. Now, to be fair, I don't really recall him ever, in other speeches refer to President Obama as President Obama. I think he always says Obama or Barrett
Yeah, I remember the him saying former Trump, and he left out president. But then later on in the speech, he did say former President Trump. So I think you might have misread.
Didn't hear that. When I hear former Trump, I'm like, it's kind of like, oh, you wish he weren't here anymore.
I mean,
like the former person is Trump now not here with us.
Sometimes I think that eventually Biden's going to have his Ron Burgundy moment where somebody's going to put something in the teleprompter where Ron Burgundy closes it out with go fuck yourself, San Diego, and he just reads whatever's on the teleprompter. So
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything so forcefully read in my life. It's felt so forced. Like, apologize to your sister for hitting her. I mean, just that force. Right. Like, I don't want to say it now. Like, that's kind of how I felt about it. And of course, he could not resist. Jan 6.
Yep. I mean, never mind all of the riots, the George Floyd riots, and the occupation of the CHOP and the Capitol Hill area, and saying we're no longer part of the United States, we will govern ourselves. I mean, never mind any of that stuff. But it's all got to be Jan 6. Well, now there's July 13. There's now
J13 instead of J6. But one of a very classic reaction online I saw was basically, MAGA, not one store burned, not one street with a riot in it, nothing, because we respect the law.
Yeah, exactly. So we saw all of this. Again, we've been out of communication, out of electricity, out of internet for a week because of the hurricane, and we needed to take an appetite suppressant on what it is we talked about, because there is so much.
Another hour.
There's so much to unpack with this, but again, I wanted to concentrate on the spin that people are saying this is such an easy shot, and I would disagree with that.
Yeah. Well, to close out, my final comment is we will be voting for Trump for a third time. And so many people, even people who try to stay center, maybe center right, are going, nope, I'm crawling over broken glass to vote for him. The state of the world, we need Trump to win, but that's just a temporary fix. Like, when was the last time there were back-to-back Republican presidents?
Bush.
I mean, yeah, it's been a while.
And then before that,
so
Reagan.
they say, okay, yeah, it would be good for 4 years. They're probably going to fight him tooth and nail, just like last time. And then we would need someone good in 2028 to fix all the stuff that is just so broken. And they say that politics is downstream from culture. Well, culture is downstream from morality. And we're lacking morality in today's society. And I pray for a revival.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I'm going to make a prediction right now. Trump is going to win the presidency. The poor debate showing Biden has just been, looking at this decline, this mutiny of the Democrat Party to vote for him. So you have that. And then you have the assassination attempt on former President Trump and the powerful imagery of how tough this man is. He got up and he's like, hold on a second.
That's leadership.
Yeah. I mean, he is a Billy Badass.
It's not woe is me. It is, I'm giving the people
fight.
The people what they want. I'm giving them the Coliseum, and God, we need it right now.
Yep. So I'm predicting it's going to be Trump by a landslide, and anyway, we had to take, again, an appetite suppressant because there's so much to unpack and talk about. But thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast. Please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in. Welcome to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Kimberly McNabb, and with me is Barrett McNabb.
Well, I tell you what, it's great to be in the studio because we have been out of power, internet, and in some instances, water for the past 7 days due to Hurricane Beryl.
Yep. But let's jump our feet right back into the water. So, former Levi's exec launches XXXY, because the chromosomes refer back to your 6th grade biology science class.
Right.
XXXY athletics brand, which TikTok has banned the pro-woman ad. Let's take a look.
If you think girls and women's equality matter, stand up. If girls and women's sports matter, and you want your daughters to have the same opportunity you had, stand up. If you know that it isn't fair or safe to allow males to compete in girls' sports because it's, obvious, stand up. Don't be cowed by people who call you a bigot. You're not a bigot. Don't let men tell us how to be good girls. Don't let others tell you you just need to be quiet. Sit down. Be nice. It's not nice to further a lie. It's not mean to believe in women's equality. We deserve our own sports, privacy, fairness, safety. We deserve a chance to compete and win. So don't be nice. Don't be careful. Be honest. Be brave. Fight for women. We've come too far to give up now. And if you agree with that, stand up and stand with us.
So TikTok banned this ad and permanently blocked them from doing any other ads for violating some kind of community standard. And I don't see any hate or bigotry in this at all.
No. It's just, the trans community just doesn't like it. I'm sorry, but facts don't care about your feelings. So they showed Riley Gaines. They showed the former Levi exec. Her last name is Say, S-E-Y. And we are actually modeling. Let me get this microphone out. Some merch.
And we're not sponsored.
Not paid at all.
We love the mission, the statement and the mission statement.
Yeah, and we have a 5-year-old daughter, and we don't want her to ever be like one of these young ladies. In some of the clips that were shown, there was a volleyball player critically injured from competing against a boy. Okay,
right,
a boy. I mean, there are just such big differences between men and women, and a prime example this past weekend with the attempted assassination of President Trump. Image after image of just these short women. If you physically can't cover a 1.5 foot of mass, I'm sorry, that's a complaint for the God department.
Right. So, because Trump is 6'4" tall. Let's not worry about his weight. Doesn't matter. But he is a big man. And some of these female Secret Service agents, not knocking on the female Secret Service agents. I'm just saying that they're short. And there is a difference between a 6-foot man and a 5'7" female. And
the likelihood of her being able to tackle the president to avoid him getting shot, not good.
Right.
Okay, someone my height doesn't have a good chance of being able to tackle him.
Right.
It is what it is.
But if you do the inverse and you have a 6-foot man, which is atypical of a female human participating in sports, they're just going to outperform.
Yes.
It's just not fair. I think that's really what the message is it's not fair.
Yeah, and how many women have to get hurt? And then not just hurt, but Riley Gaines was in the locker room with William Thomas, and a locker room, when you have a bunch of people right there in the same space getting on bathing suits, the genitalia is right there, like basically in your face. Do you want that for your daughter? That's just not appropriate. I mean, it's not fair. And they were not warned about that at all. So that's part of her story.
And that's kind of been happening in women's locker rooms in popular chain gyms, right?
Planet Fitness, a prime example. And they backed up, their policy, like, hey, we'll kick you out. We don't want your money. And I'm like, well, a lot of women feel the way that the woman who reported it feel. So, I mean, I was looking for a gym membership, and I'm like, I'm not going to Planet Fitness.
Yeah, I definitely, with us having a 5-year-old daughter, I am affected by negative news stories much more so than before I became a father.
Yes.
So when I see, girls being, sexually abused, girls being harmed, girls,
or even just having to walk into a locker room and seeing a dude there.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that for my daughter.
It's not appropriate, especially for that to be like the first penis she ever sees.
Right.
It's just inappropriate, and I don't even. There's certain conversations like your kids just aren't ready for. I mean, I understand you don't want to shelter your kids because it's going to happen. It'll be someone at school who tells them if you don't tell them. I get that argument, but it's not fair for people to force it on you before you, as the parent who knows your kid best, is ready. So, like, I had to go to the bank the other day, and there was this odd-looking individual. I'm just there to get coins, because we were thinking we would get to go to a laundromat. Turned out we didn't get to because of the storm knocking out our power. And as a mom, you develop peripheral vision very well. And it's like, oh, God, maybe if I pretend to not see that and I look this way, the kids will not pay attention either. They were too busy since they've never been to a bank, really. They were playing with the pins on the chains and trying to whip it. And of course I'm telling them not to, which makes them want to do it even more. So they're a little distracted, which for us was like, okay, my mom's got to go to the bank. It's a Saturday. She's got to deposit her check. So it was kind of like, okay, big deal. For them, it was a big deal. But it was a very thin, what I thought was a man, but kind of had some, I don't know, lip fillers and maybe a little makeup and, hair in a bun and maybe thinking about transitioning. And anyway, very strange looking. And I'm not sure what kind of accent it was, but it was kind of like a forced feminine. Okay. But the legs were dude's legs. The dudes were dude legs. They were not, no, dude legs. Total dude legs, dude hips. That's why I kept looking down, like, just look at the teller. And, as we're getting into the truck, I guess this person walked out as well, but went in a different direction. Our daughter's like, is that a girl or a boy? And I'm like, doesn't matter. It's like, because we're not ready for those conversations. And the last place I want that to be forced on her is in a locker room or in a bathroom. So anyway, we totally agree with the message here that XX and XY brand are trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's XX, XY Athletics.
Yes.
If you did a Google search, you would be able to find them easily. I saw an interview, and the CEO actually said that the TikTok ban actually helped them out a huge amount because it brought a lot of visibility to
and news stories, which is how we found it.
Yeah, exactly. And so their sales have been going gangbusters. And we ordered these shirts in order to do this segment. So we definitely support their message. We definitely support their brand. We purchased their brand. We're not sponsored in any way, shape, or form.
And it's good fabric.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting fabric because it's not. It's almost like a microfiber, but it's not a spandex or anything like that. So, but still, if you want to go support them, if you support women in women's sports, biological females in female sports, go ahead and give them a look and see what they've got. They've got all kinds of hats and things like that. In fact, there's a hat that I've got my eye on that I think I'm going to go get. But yeah, we saw this and we wanted to show our support. And thanks for tuning in to Azimuth Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.